So you've been homeschooling since September or August or June, whenever. Some people do it year round. You've been homeschooling and it's that time of year. It's January. It's time to look back at what you've done and to see what works, what doesn't work. Some things work for certain children. Some things work for other children. You may have more than one child. Some people have only one child, and it's easy for them to determine. When you have like I had 3, you have to determine what type of person or what type of learner they are, especially this year. If you are just starting out homeschooling this year and you're finding out, or, September, the school year, and you're finding out a little bit more about your child, you're finding out this child's hands-on, this child is a bookworm, you're finding, and they're kind of separated, that's okay. You can still gather them together. You just have to do it a little bit differently. You have to tweak some things. And guys, if it doesn't work, get rid of it. Don't make it a burden. So many homeschoolers that I have seen have taken curriculum and have made it a burden. Now, Mark, I'm going to use your daughter for an example because I had such a fun time seeing something that she was doing with the 2 boys, and it was Math UC. I love Math UC. It's a hands-on math thing. She was talking about how much she loved it and how her boys are loving it, and it works for them. And that's what you got to look at, especially at the ages that these children are. They're younger children. And you want to find out if your child's hands-on, because they will not learn if they're a hands-on child, especially with math. You're not going to sit there and take a book and open a book and sit them down and say, okay, now let's do our arithmetic. Some kids can't handle that. Some kids need that Math UC kind of thing where you sit there and you see and you take the little blocks to count, to do the addition, and then later on it shows the multiplication. Another way to do with math, and I'm just using math as an example, you could do this with many other subjects, taking dice and teaching the kids to throw 2 dice at a time, so they're learning their multiplication. Like they throw the dice and it's 2 3s. Well, 2 times 3, because it's 2 dice, equals what? And you explain to them why it equals 6 and why you're doing 2 times, and they're seeing it and they're hearing it and they're feeling it. And but then there's some kids that are into the Saxon math. They love Saxon. I had a Saxon math kid, drove me nuts because he liked to open that book, and he did great. You give him the book, he learned it, boom, he was a book learner. Then you had the other one who he was the one that was the Math UC kid and the dice and everything. And then you had the third one. She was a mixture of all. And what was nice about that is I could take the older one and I could bring him to the younger one to help. And we need to remember that too. You need to have your child sometimes help the other child because they learn when they're teaching. And we need to remember that. And so when you're going through your stuff and you find that this is not working, go sell that curriculum and use that money to buy what will work for you and continue on. And remember, don't be fearful. And you think, because I know many homeschoolers, and Sandy, I know you're probably one of them too, that was like, am I teaching him everything? Is he following everything? Is he learning everything? Well, FYI, guys, nobody knows everything. Everybody knows a little bit of something. And when we gather together, we learn from each other. So right now, what I have for today is just go back through your year, check out what works and what doesn't work. And don't be afraid to get rid of it if it doesn't work. It's that simple.
Well, I think that's great advice. The math UC and all of it. I think my son sort of did all. He was like the combination, like your daughter, although hands-on was very important. I think hands-on should be applied a little bit for every student, though, because there's something about doing an activity that's related to what you're learning, whether it's even watching a movie sometimes, or building, or going for the walk, or going to the factory, or doing, there's something that reinforces whatever you're learning.
Well, when you bring them together, I would bring them together. Like I had 3. So I would bring them together to do things together that was hands-on. And yeah, I had days and moments, guys. I'm telling you, as a homeschooler, and I graduated 3, and 2 of them went to college, and one of them is in the United States military, and it looks like he might have made chief. they were all homeschooled, and I thought that I was failing them. And then come to find out, no, I didn't fail them. I educated them to the best of their ability, and I did according to the scriptures, which says to train up a child in the way they should go. And that's the most important thing.
Well, I love it. I love it. And it's a great encouragement because it is that time of year. Even with Amariah, I'm like, okay, we're going to dig in a little bit more because she's going to be 3 at the end of January. And it's the perfect time to dig in a little deeper. And yesterday, trying to get her to read, we were reading, and we were going over our letters, and she knows some of her letters and she doesn't know some of her letters, some other ones, but she fought me for a few minutes, and then we're getting back into gear. But we should be homeschooling. You should be teaching your child from the minute that child's born. They're learning and growing, and we need to take advantage of that time. And anyway, thank you, Joe, for that homeschool segment. I appreciate it. And did any of you have anything you wanted to chime in with real quick before we go to the news?
Well, the only thing I was thinking of along the lines of what you were saying is that when we, combining both of you, like what you said, Sandy, we should be teaching our kids from the moment they're born, which we do. And I think most everybody does. Start. It's what we do. We're going to have kids. We love kids. We want to teach them, and then we send them off to school. And sending them off to school is that structured thing that is put together based on having many kids in one place. So you have to have a structure that's based on time limits. For instance, you go to school on certain days, you go to certain times, each class is a different time, and so on and so forth. And then it only goes from, say, September to, March or whatever, and then you get 3 months off, and it's all set up that way because it has to be set up that way because you're working with a lot of people, adults that are working with a lot of kids. And if you didn't have a structure put together, it would just be chaos. So that structure has to be there, and you have to have a little vacation in the middle of it. So, all that is right. It's good. It's the way it's supposed to be. But when you're homeschooling, from what I understand with Sarah, and it's been a long time since we homeschooled Sarah. Both the boys went all the way through public school, but in homeschooling Sarah, I kind of slightly remember that we didn't really follow to the public school pattern of when you did homeschooling, when you did your schooling, when did you take your breaks, when did you take your vacation, all that type of thing. So it's more of like right now, I know Sarah, even through the summer months, she's got specific things that they have to work on. The rest of the world in public school is all out on school vacation, but the homeschooling kids are working on different projects. Maybe it's not a full-time thing. Maybe it is, because you don't have to have that structured thing based on having multiple people, multiple teachers, multiple students, multiple staff, that type of thing. So that's my thought in what both of you were talking about. That's just my little ad.
Well, you know what? Learning.
It's a given.
Learning is not really supposed to be scheduled. Yes, with a public school system, they have to have that schedule because of so many people. But learning is an everyday thing. It should be an everyday thing. Sure. And I like what my dad said. He says, yeah, I'm 82 years old, but I'm still young because I'm still learning.
Right.
I love that. Right. That's good. Right. That's really good.
Exactly.
When we go through life, just like you talk about Amariah and how you're cooking with her, and you'll go, this is a half, this is, the different measurements and things. I'm never a person who can learn by abstract concepts. I've got to be able to apply it. how does that work? And so when you're talking about it in homeschool and then you turn around and you're doing it and applying what you're learning in your homeschooling, it really solidifies with the kids. Whereas like when you're in a school setting, they are teaching in a sense abstractly. They're teaching in an abstract concepts, and so um, it was that's kind of where I come from. There were times I look back, like I was going to learn the piano, and they'd say every good boy does fine. All cows eat grass. That's the lines and the spaces. Well, nobody told me it was A B C D E F G. When I figured that out on my own, I'm going like, okay, I learned better that way than trying to give me some kind of, but everybody's different. And that's what Joe is saying too. Everybody's different. How is your child? And a teacher is going to gear it generically rather than specifically for the children. So the homeschooling, that's why children actually who are homeschooled come out a lot more well-rounded than they do in school. They'll only learn, So it all works. I mean,
That's right. That's right.
Because I know there are people out there, like in my situation, I couldn't homeschool. I was too busy trying to make a living and keep food on the table and the roof over our head. So I just couldn't. But I did what I could, So
right.
It is what it is.
It is.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.